Monkey D. Garp has been one of the most talked about characters in the One Piece sphere in the past couple weeks, and it makes sense, whether it's for better or for worse, whether it's all the jokes or the defenses that people are coming to for him because of the God Valley flashback, which we learned about, we're in 2025. The first time we heard about God Valley was like chapter 957, and if you can do the math, that was like in 2019, which is 6 years ago. We've been promised and waiting on God Valley for 6 years, where Garp gained the title of Hero of the Marines, where he had to team up with his mortal enemy, Gold D. Roger, to take down an even bigger threat, who's supposed to be the world's worst pirate ever, even worse than the Pirate King himself, Rox Izabek, a man who had 3 separate Yonko on his crew at the same time. And now that we know how he's gotten them, he won them through Davy back fights, so he had to beat somebody either stronger than them, or he had to beat them and force them to join his crew, because I'm pretty sure in the story they say that he beats them to join his crew. So it's needless to say, he's no joke. And beyond the Yonkos, you had Golden Lion, Shiki, Captain John, and Stussy, which are powerhouses in their own right in the One Piece world, right? So it's just, it's crazy to think about. But, back on track. Let's stop all the Rox Izabek glaze. And, I know we've all been loving Rox, but before we get into this video, I just want to say, by the end of the year, I'm really looking forward to hitting 1,000 subscribers, right? And I will be bringing more videos like this to you guys. I'm going to try to get these out at least like 2 or 3 times a week. I will try my best. I'm in grad school, so I am working as much as I can on these videos outside of doing schoolwork, because oh my God. But if you guys do enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. You can wait until the end and watch it all the way through. I will greatly appreciate it before you even subscribe. I just want to bring you guys quality content. I'm trying to shift up the content that I'm doing. So I really do hope you guys enjoy it. And if you have any feedback, I'm always open to feedback. But let's get into it, right? So the way that we're going to attack this video is we're going to talk about Garp in the 3 different ways we've seen him, right? We're going to talk about Romance Dawn Garp, which isn't a lot. We're going to talk about pre-time skip Garp, and then we're going to talk about post-time skip Garp. And then at the end of this, I want to talk about what I think Garp's true purpose is in the story. So without further ado, let's get into it, and let's start where One Piece all began. So we'll start off by clearing up one thing. Romance Dawn Garp is mostly a stand-in for Shanks, as Oda didn't really want to spoil the audience on who gave Luffy the Straw Hat and the Gum Gum Fruit, but I still think Romance Dawn is pretty true to One Piece Garp's attitude, at least. In this story, he's a peace main, which is essentially a stand-in for the Marines, but instead, they're pirates who chase bad pirates. So there's good pirates and bad pirates in this universe, right? And Luffy, he himself wants to be a peace main, where, he chases down bad pirates. But since he's a stand-in for Shanks, as you would expect, he inspired Luffy to become a pirate again, which is a stark contrast to his main character counterpart, who despises pirates. Garp hates pirates in the main story, which if you're watching this. And this Garp, while still being on the side of good, seems to be more free than main series Garp, in my opinion, and isn't tied down by some institution. When I think about main series Garp, I'd say he'd probably be jealous of Romance Dawn Garp in some way, even though he would likely hate him because he's still a pirate. But with that out the way, that's kind of all you really need to know about Romance Dawn Garp. He was basically a stand-in for Shanks, but again, his attitude is pretty much the same. But let's get into the main course of this video. Now, when we first meet Garp, his identity is concealed by a big dog mask, and the mast of his ship is that of a dog, which, retroactively looking back, is genius visual storytelling on Oda's part. But the main reason I think his base was covered is because, for people who read Romance Dawn, they will probably see that, oh, that's Luffy's granddad. He put him in the story, because, mangakas are known for bringing characters from their one-shots into their main series. Oda actually did it a lot with One Piece. But through the visual medium, we're immediately alerted to the fact that Garp is nothing more than a dog of the Marines. Even though Oda has set up Garp to be something of a centrist in the One Piece world, someone who has opposing ideals to the world at large but sits by and does nothing to change the status quo, and oftentimes benefits from the status quo. Even though Garp says that he's in the Marines to change the Marines, I get that, I understand that, but if you're looking at his track record, Garp hasn't really achieved any change in the Marines, right? He's not even high up to really achieve those changes. I'd argue that Sengoku could do more change in the Marine than Garp could, or what's the name of his higher up? I can't remember his name, but Garp really hasn't done it. Like he tried to climb the ranks to do good within the machine, but we've seen time and time again how this has never worked in his favor. And this is exemplified in no place better than Marineford with the infamous death of his grandson, Porcus D. Ace, where I would say, and many would agree, Garp's priorities really came to light. His status. His status as a Marine stands above all else. For an entire 31 chapters, Garp stood by as his adopted grandson, who was entrusted to him, by the way, by Goldie Roger after he's put up for execution. Now, Roger entrusting Ace to Garp does speak volumes about his character. I will admit that, and I will give him that. And it's a topic for another video. Hint, hint. You know, we'll talk about that eventually. But while I understand Garp's stance that you live with the consequences of your actions, and to some degree, I do understand and I agree with that, there's still a part of me that thinks it's a bit performative that he would try to attack Sakazuki after he killed Ace, because it makes me think about it, right? If it was Sengoku, because Sengoku's the one who's going to carry out the execution, right? Or if it was some random Marine that just chopped his head off, what would he have done, right? Would he have gone and attacked him the same way and been like, oh, Sengoku, or would like tell him, like maybe the other two admirals jump him if Sengoku's killed him? He's like, oh, like hold me down or I'm gonna go kill Sengoku. Like it's a bit performative, right? And this to me at least goes to show that Garp will always operate within the boundaries set by the world government no matter what. His uniform will always come first, even at the cost of those he loves. I'd go so as far as to say that Garp is really no true hero. He has, as this video is aptly named, and as Oda has visually told us, a dog of the world government, at least pre-time skip. So let's kind of get into post-time skip and see how his character switches up, right? So Garp post-time skip has retired from active duty combat and has taken up a role as an instructor in the Marine. And this tracks pretty well, at least in my opinion, with his characterization, as a pretty big and important thing for him has always been nurturing and raising up the next generation. We've seen this with Ace, we've seen this with Luffy, we've seen this with Kobe and Helmeppo. This is seen mostly, again, in his star pupil, Kobe and his friend Helmeppo, two characters who have at this time joined Sword, a section of the Marines who have somewhat defected from the Marines but aren't enemies of the Marines. Now, seemingly most, if not all, of Garp's students are part of Sword, which does speak to the sense of justice that he does instill in his students, because we can even look at Kuzan, and I'll get into that later in the video. But this also leads to theories of it that Garp started Sword, which, you know, true or not, there are better videos out there talking about that topic, so I'm not gonna get in there. But in terms of action, we've only seen Garp fight on his way to rescue Kobe from the Blackbeard pirates, even though the Marines were against it, because he's a member of Sword, right? He went against the Marines directive because the Marines are telling him, hey, he's a member of Sword, we don't care, it's not our problem. And I think that one of the reasons why he did this is because Ace's death has affected him and he refuses to lose another son figure, right? Sure, Kobe's technically still a Marine, but it does show that Garp is still willing to go against orders if needs be, which we have been told that he generally does his own thing, but to my own recollection, I haven't really seen Garp go against an order before. I mean, again, granted, we haven't seen Garp receive many orders before, but I guess. But this fight in Hachinosu with the Blackbeard pirates brings Garp in direct conflict with his first pupil and former Marine Admiral Kuzan Aokiji, who decided to leave the Marines after Sakazuki beat him for the title of Fleet Admiral. This leads me to my next point, how every one of Garp's students, or even his kids, follow their own sense of justice more than him, right? If you look at Luffy didn't want to be a pirate. He's like, Luffy didn't want to be a Marine. He's like, no, I'm not going to be a Marine. I'm going to be a pirate. Ace didn't want to be a Marine. He's like, I'm not going to be a Marine. I'm going to be a pirate. Now, I'll give him that with Dragon. Dragon did go into the Marines. We know that now. We've always kind of suspected that Dragon was a part of the Marines, but we never really knew. But with the God Valley flashback, we now know that Dragon was a part of the Marines. But everything he saw in God Valley, he was just like, why are we doing this? And it instilled this sense of horror and this sense of justice that he needs to be the one to bring down the world government, right? And Garp, again, went there, saw all of that, and was like, I'm cool being here. I'm cool staying here. It's fine. Like, all this is fine. But As I've said, Garp before, Garp does follow his own sense of justice, but he always and always has and always will operate within the bounds of the Marines to some extent. This is his main limiting factor. That while he does try to push the next generation, he himself likes to stick within the boundaries the world has set for him. And this brings me to my closing argument and the point of this whole video, honestly. Garp's purpose in the story is to show the two sides of trying to do the right thing. Now, this isn't some new revelation I've come to. Like, you know, a lot of people have said this, a lot of videos have been made about this, but Garp shows what it's like to try and change the Navy from inside, but somewhere along the way, he seems to have just become complacent with everything. As I've stated before in this video, it was written before the last chapter, where we learned that Garp didn't know anything about the native hunting games and the celestial dragons, you know, taking Shaki and all that kind of stuff. But again, he stayed with the Navy for another 30 years, right? He learned all of these atrocities that the celestial dragons were doing. And sure, he didn't like it, and sure, he doesn't want them to be under the direct leadership, but that doesn't take away from the fact that in some way, he was complacent with all of it, right? He sat by and just let it. You think the celestial dragons just stop having the native hunting games? You think that just isn't happening anymore? You think they're just like, oh yeah, God Valley was bad? And even in the sense of, if they stopped it, it wasn't because of Garp. It wasn't because Garp did anything, right? Garp didn't really change anything. Maybe they're just like, oh, this last one went really bad because, you know, some pirates showed up, right? The slaves, they called the pirates because, you know, Ginny and Kuma and Ivankov. It was Ivankov that, you know, put the news out there with Big News Morgan, right? That would have been what stopped it, but Garp had no hand in that, right? Now, I will say this. Don't get me wrong, I love Garp as a character, and I truly hope Oda reveals something that changes my perspective on him. But for now, I can't really give Garp any credit other than the fact that he is a dog of the world government, and he has been nothing more this entire story. The only time we've seen Garp really even attempt or honestly do anything of note is train Kobe and Helmeppo, who do have their own sense of justice, and he saved Kobe from the Blackbeard pirates, right? That's what I think is Garp's main contributing factor to the story so far. And that's kind of crazy to say. While I understand that Garp isn't a main character in any way, but it's been what, over 1,000 chapters, and I would say visually from what we've seen from Garp, other than the fact that, you know, he told Luffy about his father and the introduced the concept of the 4 Yonko in Water 7 after Enies Lobby. Garp's purpose in this story, as I've stated before, is to show us the two sides of trying to make change. There's going about it the revolutionists' way, and then there's going about it from inside the machine, and how somewhere along the way you will lose yourself in the machine, right? That is what Garp has done. Garp has lost himself in the machine, and I do think one of the reasons why he's so adamant about nurturing the future is because he said, okay, my current generation, we're done, we're cooked, right? We're in the machine, we're cogs in the machine, but these new kids, they can make a change in the machine, right? They can do something that can make it better. Now, what that is and how that is, because, you know, Emu, the Celestial Dragons, I don't think Garp knows about Emu. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that part. Maybe not. We do now know that Emu has showed up on God Valley. I don't know if Garp saw that at all, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. But I'm gonna leave the video there. And if you guys did enjoy the video, you know, I'm gonna try my best, like I said before, to get at least 2 or 3 videos out every week. Not just One Piece related or anime, you know, it's just anything anime, movies, TV shows, or video games and beyond. So if you did enjoy the video, please, like I said before, leave a like, a comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you. Goodbye.